Well, I've always loved comedic elements in science fiction, things like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the TV show Red Dwarf. 20 years ago, I had a day job with a 4-hour commute by train. So, as you do, I decided to use the time to write a sci-fi novel. Think Laurel and Hardy do the apocalypse. So I took two diametrically opposed personalities and dropped them into a post-apocalyptic world. In terms of inspiration, I can't deny that drugs and alcohol definitely played a part. One of the characters, Ed, is sedentary, while the other, Harry, is adventurous. From their tower block, the world appears to be an ocean of rubble. They can't go out during the daylight as there is no ozone layer and they would fry. The rubble is a nighttime mystery filled with terrifying noises. They have no memory of the apocalypse or any idea how far the rubble extends. Harry lures Ed out onto the nighttime rubble. I wrote it so that as they progress further from home, each chapter is a separate adventure. I tried to make each adventure more ludicrous than the last. Well, I've been working with composer, arranger and producer and video maker Ricky Humphrey for over 4 years now with our band Tiwsted Wreckage. When I mentioned the novel to him, Ricky, ever the visionary, came back to me with the idea of writing a music album based on the novel. He started composing pieces of music and sending them to me. I then adapted the ideas from some of the chapters into song lyrics. It's just another example of the magical alchemy that is Tiwsted Wreckage. By the way, there is now also an audiobook available of the entire novel, read by me. And we're probably planning a t-shirt as well. In the introduction, we decided to do a movie soundtrack voiceover for the introduction to the album that sets out something of the basic premise while hinting at some of the unlikely and dubious delights that await further along the walk in the dark. The track, A Walk in the Dark, well, this song reflects the adventurous character in the novel, Harry's desire to go and find out what the hell is going on outside the safety of the tower block. Personally, there have been times in my life when I've decided to step right outside of my comfort zone to fully embrace the unknown, very often to go for a walk in the dark, wearing shades, with my eyes closed. I mean, how else are you going to find adventure? The lyrics also encourage people to find and follow their heart, rather than doing the sensible prescribed thing. Get out there, take some chances. I'd like to say that has always worked for me. Of course, I can't because it hasn't, but I like to say it anyway. The third song, Magic. In Magic, I'm expressing the feeling I've had since I was a teenager, that as we grow into our conditioned and educated lives, magic fades away from our world. Studying history, I came to believe that organized religions were basically control systems. Fairy tale bollocks designed to keep us in place by the use of fear. I saw that religions had caused war after war throughout the centuries, all the while preaching love. I believe that there was a time, maybe right at the beginning of the human race, when we did actually manage to live in harmony with our perceived reality. And that in that reality, miraculous things that we would refer to now as magic, were actually commonplace and available to everyone. It's almost certainly too late for us now. I mean, look around. But if we were able to somehow reconnect directly to the world, who knows what magical experiences might be available to us. In the book, increasingly inexplicable things gradually happen to our heroes, things that appear, when necessary, as if by magic. It takes them the entire book to come to terms with this and to realize that this is happening because the majority of the human race no longer exists. In the song, I'm basically singing to organized religion. Magic's back, yeah, magic's here. Age of miracles, nothing to fear. In the song Coming and Going, this is basically a song about how much we take everything for granted. The kind of taking everything for granted that seems to be leading towards the eventual end of the world. This quite reasonably seems to begin with fear of death, and with everyone walking around thinking that somehow death won't happen to them and that they'll live forever. Maybe this is why we consume so mindlessly, as if trying to outrun death by eating and acquiring and controlling as much stuff as we possibly can. We give little or no thought to what's involved with this constant supply of stuff. But everything is coming from and going to somewhere. Within that flow, there are consequences. Consequences that we ignore. Consequences that could quite easily lead to, well, I don't know, an apocalypse? Shock till you drop, baby. All roads only exist. The song All Roads, people seem obsessed with destinations, but a destination by its very nature is something that doesn't exist yet. It only exists somewhere in the future. People tend to think, when I get here, I'll be happy, or when I achieve this, I'll be happy, but constantly struggle to move towards being happy, all the while without realizing that they carry around inside them all the happiness they could possibly imagine or need. So I'm singing that all roads only exist beneath your foot, just in the moment, and it's the journey, not the destination. In the novel, what they travel through is of far less importance than the fact that they are travelling, and that it is the travelling that leads to the real discovery, to self-discovery. The artwork, yeah, how did that come about? Well, if you're as famous as Tears for Fears, apparently it causes controversy to use AI to create your artwork. But if you're as famous as this Tiwsted Wreckage, however, I seriously doubt whether anyone will give a shit. Please feel free to let me know. Well, anyway, I used an AI site called Night Cafe, and after trying a few descriptive phrases, generated the basic image of the tower block and the full moon. However, as with all AI-generated artwork, it somehow doesn't quite fool the eye. This is where another aspect of the genius that is Ricky Humphrey came into play, because Ricky has been responsible not just for composing and producing the music, but also creating the artwork and the videos for this Tiwsted Wreckage. So he worked some subtle image alteration magic on the AI-generated image and managed to make it really pop off the page or screen. So the artwork was produced by a combination of artificial intelligence and natural genius. Yes, they are closely related to the book. In fact, two of the songs, The Bounty Hunter and Chrome Diner Dream, take their lyrics directly from what happens in each of those chapters. Turning prose into lyrics was something that I had some experience with working with the writer Alan Black. He had a series of stories called Dive Bar and asked me if I could translate them into song lyrics. It was a fascinating and somewhat mind-bending process. The inspirational compositions that Ricky sent me made this whole process a lot more organic and natural than it had been when I worked on it in isolation. Small cloud of dust on the horizon. The bounty hunter basically represents the past. He is the last vestige of the world that Harry and Ed are trying to escape. They're trying to free themselves from the past, from the resulting apocalypse, trying to find a better world, or at least to understand the world that they now inhabit. Unknowingly, they are on the run from the bounty hunter of the past. In a wider context, our past is always hunting us down. Our past knows who we are. Not only does it know our names, it knows it owns our souls. And it doesn't really care who we tell ourselves is to blame. How often do things thought to be safely buried in the past suddenly show up? Sometimes it can be very unpleasant. I don't owe you money, do I? No, I didn't think so. Then again, the bounty hunter is not a very pleasant character. Here comes the bounty hunter, and once your soul, he knows your name. Escape is impossible. He don't care who's to blame. Night Vision. Several chapters of the novel take place in different historical time periods in the city of San Francisco. For me, San Francisco is the promised land. It's the most wonderful city that I've ever lived in. But I have lived and played music in some of the less salubrious areas of the city, shall we say. So On the one hand, you have the high-tech glamour and allure of Silicon Valley's shining jewel, while on the other hand, you have the gutter-snipe inhabited alleys behind the facade. Having lived in San Francisco's Tenderloin area for 3 years, it was my experience that you definitely needed night vision. Street smarts, baby. Chrome Diner Dream sees another episode with the bounty hunter. He moves through the world feeling very much as if he is in control of it and that he is zeroing in on his prey. But suddenly, there in the middle of the desert is an impossible, brand spanking new, shiny, air-conditioned chrome diner. Inside, he discovers a young woman who is simultaneously both beautiful and also a hag, who takes that control away from him before dumping him back on his motorcycle out on the highway, scratching his head and trying to remember just who he was chasing and why. It's really a commentary about how in control we feel and how that feeling can be taken away in the blink of an eye. So be careful where you dine. Tomorrow Today is another commentary on where all this lusting for a supposedly better way of life can lead. In the context of this novel and this album, it leads to a planet filled with rubble. The rubble of just how wonderful life could be. So grab a copy of our album and have a dance. Grab a copy of the audiobook and have a laugh. But whatever you do, for God's sake, don't take anything I say too seriously. Where is Walk in the Dark available? Do take this seriously, please. The music album is available on Bandcamp, along with the rest of our albums and singles. It can be found at https://thistwistedwreckage.bandcamp.com. You could look right in that down. It's on Bandcamp. The audiobook of the novel A Walk in the Dark is available wherever you get your audiobooks online. A mere $15 gets you over 9 hours of laughter, fun, thrills and spills, all read by yours truly. So what's next for this Twisted Wreckage? Well, the next project will be our now traditional Halloween song/video. It's called The Devil in Me. Just to show that we refuse to be nailed into a particular genre, the next album release will be a double album of ambient music with minimal vocals entitled TTW. Contains some of the weirdest and most beautiful music you've ever heard. I've been talking about our upcoming album, A Walk in the Dark, and the audiobook of the same name, as well as what is in the immediate future musically for this Twisted Wreckage. But we have a 4-year back catalogue, available on Bandcamp. So if you're new to our music, or if you've only heard small samples of it, please feel free to check out our other 5 albums and numerous singles. There's also the This Twisted Wreckage YouTube channel that is absolutely packed with eye candy and great sounds.
In a world neither of them can explain,